thank you all for hopping back on. I know most of you, well, gosh, did all of you come from rehearsal?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so there's
So,
Patty Van Allen and Susan Hawes. Oh, and there's
hello,
Michael.
hi, Patty. Hi, Susan. We're glad you're here. Hi, Michael.
And
We know you
Gary, the
can't.
Winstons.
Hi, Gary. I assume Sherry's with you. We're glad you're here.
The Cards have joined us. And Katie, hi Katie, how are you?
Yay. Hi, Katie.
Katie.
And Janet, hi Janet.
Hello,
I
Janet.
always feel like Romper Room when we do some of these things. You're like, oh look, and it's the Playlocks, and yes.
So, Andrew, can I see the attendees or no?
Do you not have the here? I did not promote you. Let me see if I can promote you.
I can
always
see
the
the
way.
attendees on participants.
If you click on participants, you can't see attendees.
Ah, there we go. Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to make you the host. There's not a co-host option anymore. They keep changing the rules on the webinar, so I'm just going to make you the host since you're going to run Q&A, and then let you get started.
All right. I've been promoted. Excellent. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I suspect a few more people will be joining us, but we have a very exciting opportunity this evening. But before we do any of that, I would like for our founder and our illustrious artistic director, Rebecca Udden, to say a few official words of greeting.
Not so sure about the illustrious, but
yes, I am
happy to welcome everyone. As many of you know, Jane Austen has a very special place in my life and in my heart. And we're so glad that we were able to snag the two authors of the Pemberley plays, who will be telling you some really wonderful news later this evening. We love these plays. They never get old. We're so glad, even in this kind of crazy time, to be able to offer them to the world. And I'm just so glad that everybody is able to join us tonight. So really appreciate the support that you all have given the theater. We're still doing okay, we hope this is not going to last forever, but we really appreciate the support that our donors have given us over the last, especially the last 8 months. It's really kept us going, and not only just kept us going financially, but just, kept us wanting to go on. So thank you. And I'm now going to turn it over to Shannon to get things started.
Yes, I would like to second that. Donors, we are particularly grateful for you and how you make this possible for us. And it's evenings like this that I know personally inspire me and keep us wanting to go on, and remember that we will get through this. And I have no doubt that Lauren and Margot would agree with that. So without further ado, we are indeed very lucky to have gotten on their busy schedules, and everybody's in different places, obviously. Lauren and Margot, are you both in California? Lauren, I know you are.
Yeah,
Margot, are you as well?
Bay Area.
Okay, you're both in the Bay Area. Okay, excellent. Well, it is our very great pleasure to welcome both to the screen this evening. You all have had the pleasure of seeing their work on our stage for many years now. Lawrence goes a little further back, and then they came out with Miss Bennet, thank goodness. But we did Silent Sky and The Revolutionist before that, staged readings of The Taming and Natural Shocks, and then we have had 2 rounds of Miss Bennet, 1 of the Wickhams, and this holiday season we're going to have both. So we love your work. Needless to say, we love the worlds you create, the way you create them, and it is our great joy to have you joining us tonight. I know several of our donors who are on this evening really follow your work closely and are always excited to connect with it wherever it's being done. So thank you for taking a few minutes. I know life is wild. With that, before we jump into questions, I just wanted to ask both of you to tell us, I know a little bit about how the genesis of the Pemberley plays started, but I know there's probably a bit more to it than that. So would you all just share with us how this all started for the two of you?
You want to go, Margot? You tell it better. don't know about all that. Well, the origin story just really, I think, starts from Lauren's and my friendship. We had been colleagues working together for a really long time, Lauren as playwright and me as dramaturg. And we were working on a play of Lauren's called The Heath, and which is a play that is tied to, in a lot of ways, to King Lear. And so we decided it was a good idea for us to hop in the car and take the 6-hour drive up to Oregon Shakespeare Festival to see their production of King Lear. And we had 6 hours in the car on the way up to talk about what the American theater really needed. And we both had lots of ideas about it, but what we really started to talk about was, you know, the lack of options for the holidays. And, you know, we have both seen The Nutcracker and Christmas Carol and the David Sedaris piece and Santaland Diaries. We've seen those many times. And so we started to think about, you know, what it was about those pieces that people kept coming back to, but also what we felt was missing from those pieces. And so, you know, hour 3 of our drive, we had sort of hatched this idea of what would it be like to write a holiday play? And we came up with some sort of core elements that we thought were necessary to have in a holiday play, or in the kind of holiday play that we would want to see, right? And some of those things were, you know, we wanted to have familiar characters, people that you wanted to spend time with at the holidays. We wanted to have, you know, strong female characters, because that was really sort of sorely lacking in a lot of the offerings that were out. We wanted to have a love story, because love stories are always great. And we really wanted there to be this lift at the end. We wanted it to be funny. We wanted it to be heartfelt. We wanted it to feel like there was hope in the world, you know? And so we took all of those things and started thinking about it, and we landed on the idea of using the world of Pride and Prejudice that Jane Austen created, because it has 5 strong women who are very different, and it is based on a family with complicated dynamics. And there is so much possibility using the sort of wit and charm and humor that Jane Austen gives us as a starting place to take that and run with it. And so by the time we got to Ashland, where Oregon Shakespeare Festival is, we had on the back of Starbucks napkins sketched out a basic rough idea of Act 1. And then on the drive back, we fleshed out the rest of it. And that was pretty much it. Lauren, what did I leave out? I'm sure there's more.
No, I think it's fabulous. I mean, the real conversation is kind of, what do you want at the holidays? And you want something nostalgic, you want something hopeful, you want something, what Margot always says is like, the holidays are family, whether you're on Zoom or whether you're in real life. Family in all the good ways, but also all the like, oh my God, we're still talking about this kind of ways. And that's humanizing, right? There's, you know, you don't need ghosts and ghosts of Christmas futures and pasts and stuff. Like, that's not Christmas. What's Christmas is people coming together and being like, oh, I love your dress. Not wear that. You know what I mean? Like, Mom, why are you? And oh my God, no, I love the dish that you always make every year. Like, it's that family, people. And frankly, I always found Christmas Carol terrifying. I was like, there's ghosts, there's like dead kids. Like, what are we doing? This is not happy. Holy crap. Even as a kid, I was like, why are you making me watch this? So we feel like Jane Austen has more of that sparkle and charm. And it's, you know, I'd say of all of certainly my plays, this is the one that you can like relax into. Like, you know, Jane Austen, you're going to be okay.
Right.
It's gonna end up fine at the end. Like some is gonna fall in love.
Right.
And you can just kind of go like, oh, just take me there. The costumes are going to be pretty.
That's right. But
Go there now.
of course, because you all wouldn't write a play that didn't have some substance to it. And I know that we are especially grateful for that. And in fact, someone has just written in the comments, not a question, but I thank you both so much for adding these two plays into the holiday mix. And we definitely agree with that. And I will say, you know, we are grateful for all the productions of Christmas Carol out there and all the people they employ. Absolutely. And if they bring you joy, we are all for that. We just knew we didn't need to do another one. And so it's always a little bit of a question. Well, what are we, you know, we want it to have the right feel. So we're all for hope, and we're all for Jane Austen, most definitely. I would be remiss before we go any further if I didn't acknowledge that we have a whole lot of our cast members here who are graciously lending us their time as well. They have just gotten out of rehearsal. Zoom rehearsal, but it's still rehearsal, folks. So they've been at their computer for many hours. You're going to see some faces you've seen before. You're going to see some new faces, and they will all be involved in either one or both. Although everybody here, help me out, Andrew, is everybody with us tonight in both?
Yes. So, because we either have characters who are in both, such as the Darcys, and Christina Austin Lopez is playing Lydia. And then Annie and Lindsay are both, Lindsay is returning as Anna Berg in Miss Bennet, and Annie is playing Cassie in The Wickhams. And then they will be narrating, reading stage directions for the other play for the reading. They're also going to be what I call the internet standbys, because if someone loses their internet connection, they will step in and read the lines until that person gets back online for the because we are doing these readings live via Zoom. So
yes, and so the magic of live theater continues even if you're not in the theater building, and anything can happen at any given time, as we know.
And then the only person I haven't introduced that's on this here, I'm gonna make sure I have everyone on my screen, is Ricardo Hernandez Morgan is our new Wickham and Arthur as right. Double cast. So.
And Robin Robinson, who directed the Wickhams last season, my word, that seems like a long time ago, and who you see direct many things for us. She's directing both this time around. So.
And then Julie Marie Perret is our stage manager. She did Miss Bennet the second time around, and then she did the Wickhams the first time around.
That's right.
So she's here for the
So actors, we are very grateful for you being here. Thank you for taking the time, and I know we will probably pull you in for some questions in a bit. But before we open up fully to questions, this is very selfish of me, but now tell us how the Wickhams, how soon did you start it after Miss Bennet? It has a very different feel. I mean, not totally, it's still of course the same world, but we're downstairs. There's some pretty dire circumstances, and it does have a different gravitas to it than the heart gravitas that Mary has in Bennet. So tell us a little bit that, and then I promise we will open to questions. If you have questions, you can type them in the Q&A or in the chat, and I promise I will get to them.
I mean, I can't remember. I mean, I think we felt compelled by the idea of a sequel, but in my mind, if you're doing a sequel, you're actually doing 3. You know, like how could we think that big? Let's make sure that the first one works before you even think about any others. And so I think it took a little while, but the response was so heartening and so confirming and so lovely. I mean, all over the country, it was still just such a delight and a confirmation to feel. But you know, the truth is the first one is feminist in the way that Jane Austen has that kind of proto-feminism, mainly thinking of a woman being similar to a man, if not entirely equal in all ways. But the Wickhams really is feminist in that it demands Lydia to be her to have her own agency. And I mean, the idea that the major issue with that play was that there had been one divorce based on a woman's instance for the woman requesting a divorce from her husband in England at the time that we set the play. One.
Gosh.
Wow. So the idea of you know, Lizzie being like, I mean, you can just divorce him is insane. It's impossible. It's absolutely, what on earth are you thinking? But of course, like if anyone's going to think about it, our strong-willed women of Jane Austen will do it. So it felt like a really interesting blend of then and now, and kind of what Jane Austen would write now about then. And, you know, it just felt like we were talking to each other in a really cool way. And it's really hard. So it is an impossible task, is a great one to follow a character to do it. And of course, then our dear Cassie and that plot line, our favorite, I think.
Oh, it's marvelous. I mean, and the way.
So bless her.
I know, that's right. Margot, did you want to add anything to that?
I think part of the thing that we wanted to explore with the Wickhams too was just this idea that a love story can take a lot of different shapes and can take a lot of different forms, right? That a love story doesn't have to resolve with what you might think of as the happy ending, you know, with a marriage. It doesn't have to equal a marriage in order to be a success. Because I think, you know, there are a lot of people for whom the story of Lydia really resonated, right? This idea that, you know, she was young, she was impulsive, she was caught up in the moment, and the reality of what that life is didn't exactly live up to the expectations that she had in the beginning. So now what? Is her life over, or does she have this opportunity to sort of become something more, something else? Does she have the opportunity to, you know, start again? And that's another part of the holidays that I think is so important and so valuable, is this idea of family coming together and allowing each other to evolve and continue to evolve past the person that you were when you were 15, or the person that, you know, is exemplified by the one bad choice that you might have made. You know, that's a storyline that I think is true in Miss Bennet, as it is in the Wickhams. Is Mary's trying to become her authentic self, and her family is like, no, this is who you are.
Yeah,
That's actually who you are. You're going to be the one who's just going to read books in the attic while mom and dad get old. Cool.
Right.
And Lydia has this sort of same problem of everybody saying, Lydia, you're just this way. And she has to sort of fight to have this voice of, you know, who she authentically is. And that's a story that I think a lot of people can really resonate with, especially when you come around family, all gather together, is trying to say, you know, this is who I am now, and this is the happy ending that I'm pursuing now. And it might not be what you expected.
And we can keep pretending that it's all perfect and fine, or we can move forward, you know?
And actually that's, I mean, one of Lydia's biggest journeys is self-recognition of what's actually going on in her life. And she can lie, but she was believing the lie, I think. And part of halfway through the play, what is asked of her is to go like, you know, all of that is fiction, right?
Right.
Which is one of the hardest things to do, is to be honest with yourself. So.
Well, and she's believing it all through Miss Bennet. So if, as you're following the series, or if you're watching them close together, that makes her, if you look at the whole arc of Lydia, it's really quite extraordinary. But I love that too about Mary. I love what you're saying about, and it's obviously very true, but it's just like, no, and I also love the contrast of Mary and Lydia. I mean, they couldn't really be much more different, and yet they are the two that have to, you know, break out of their confines. Okay, I could just do this all night. All right, do we have questions? Do we have comments? Actors, if you would like to, Andrew, can they unmute themselves, or do you have to do it? If anybody wants to pop in with a thought or a question, some of you have lived in this world with us, with all of us, for several years now. Some of you are new, but if you have thoughts or questions, we would love to hear, or if you have questions for our playwrights. This is a rare chance.
I would love to ask a question of the cast members, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
You know, I one of the things that Lauren and I have found so interesting in talking to the actors playing these roles is For the folks who have characters that are in Pride and Prejudice, what is it like to try and embody these characters that are so well known and so sort of mythical in a lot of ways? I think especially Lizzie and Darcy, you know, they have a lot of expectations kind of heaped on them before the start of these plays. And then for the folks who are playing characters of Lauren's and mine invention, I'm sort of curious how that felt too, because I always find the actors' insights into how we wrote the world of Jane Austen and what they get to do with that world so interesting to hear about. So I would love to hear from the actors.
Okay, somebody jump in.
Go ahead.
Sure. Hi, I'm Spencer. Pleasure, everybody.
And Spencer playing Mr. Darcy. Yeah.
Right. I guess the thought I was having while you were saying that was really when I first encountered Miss Bennet, the play. I was reading through it. And I was thinking, why is Darcy talking so much? Because my recollection of Pride and Prejudice, he's more of kind of he's the character that everyone is talking about in many cases, and in play versions of that story I've seen, or in film versions, he doesn't talk, and I've always liked that. He didn't have to talk. He didn't have to talk, you know, but I realize he plays a different piece of the story in this one, and he's in his house the whole time. Everyone's in his house, and he's just able to be himself, you know, and so talking more of himself comes out in what he says, and he's just one of the guys, and the guy and the dialogue you wrote for these guys is just is just on point. It's just wonderful, and I'm just having a blast with it. But I think there's something to that not having to talk that's still present that I really enjoy. Because again, Darcy doesn't have to talk. I'll just keep rambling if you let me talk.
True.
I would just add that this is my first step into the world of theater, so I haven't had the pleasure of being able to at least do Pride and Prejudice or a similar type of play. So I wouldn't be able to speak from that perspective, but just from the perspective of having read Jane Austen before, I feel like, and novels that cover the same time period, it informs a lot of the decisions you take in trying to portray these characters. And as far as Arthur is concerned, who I'm playing, I found it pretty charming to play him, just because he's the guy that I always perceive in this kind of story that you root for from the beginning of the story, because he's sort of, I forget what the word is, but he's the
underdog.
The underdog, that is the word I'm looking for. He's the underdog, and I think he's somebody that always feels like he's out of place. And I wouldn't say that I'm someone who's socially awkward. Like, I'm very chatty, but I certainly have found myself in situations where I'm like, oh God, like what do I do to get myself out of here? Try to converse with these people. And so, yeah, I found it really charming to portray that kind of character. And the fact that Mary is somebody who he shares so many parallels with, which you could immediately tell from the beginning, just based off the fact that they admire such similar material and they find the same things interesting. It made it easier to portray the character, having bounced off these moments of thoughts and interpretations of the page with Jessie, who is playing Mary in this play. And so that obviously always helps, not just what I'm bringing to it, but who the other actor that I'm doing the certain scene with. You're definitely bouncing off ideas, and it helps you explore the character a little bit more. So hopefully that answers your question.
I'm going to jump back in, and then we can certainly return to this. But I do have two questions from our equally illustrious audience out there. For Lauren and Margot, have any of Jane Austen's familial descendants had any commentary or reaction to your plays and how the characters evolved. Has anyone gotten in touch with you from the Austenian
Not from
family
the
side?
family or the estate, but as you know, there are Jane Austen literary societies all over.
Yeah.
And they have definitely made some opinions known. Most of them are just you know, very supportive, and they come in droves to see the plays. I think it's like they're down for anything that they can wear a bonnet to, so they are in it to win it.
We have one here, and they came in full Regency attire, and they are fabulous. So yeah,
amazing, perfect. Yeah. Well, we love our Jane Austen societies, and I do remember the first Margot. Remember that reading that we had of Miss Bennet? It was one of our first full drafts, and like a first stage reading, and we had it at the Jane Austen Society of Northern California. And the main question that they had and concern was our loyalty to the portrayal of Anne de Bourgh from the novel. Mm-hmm. And it took a lot of explaining to say that's actually a different Anne, because her very overbearing mother is not in the picture anymore. So who does she become when that is out of the way? And does she imitate her mom, which is a version that we kind of see when she first arrives, is this entitled, you know, boss. You know, but so that was one of those wonderful conversations that happens with people who love a body of literature so much that they can ask you the perfect question to just make sure that what we were doing had an answer and had a reason. And if we didn't have a reason, then they would certainly have fixed it for us. But it inspired a lot of like, oh my God, that's so great. Yes, we should have a scene about that. We should have a monologue about that. We should do this. So, but yes, I love it so much. I don't quite have the Regency era outfit, but I feel like that's the next on my list, is to be one of the people who show up on opening night being like, Empire waist, bonnet, let's do it.
Go big or go home. We are in Texas here after all. But another question, Katie asks, I've seen both these plays multiple times, and I'm so looking forward to seeing them again. Thanks to all of you for your commitment to continuing to create throughout all of this. Art is a lifeline for the audience too. Oh, that does our heart good, Katie, I guarantee you. Question for anyone who'd like to answer it. I know that the audience reaction is a big part of live performance. What are your thoughts on how you'll deal with the lack of that reaction in this live Zoom medium? That's a great question. Anybody? Robin, is that something you all have talked about in rehearsal so far, or not there yet? Or,
you know, we haven't officially talked about it, but I've actually been thinking about it, because when I direct, I laugh a lot, and my actors sometimes get used, at least this is what they've told me in previous shows, that they get used to hearing me laugh. And when we open or preview to an audience, that sometimes they have to adjust of why aren't they laughing when Robin laughed, or they're laughing at different places that Robin didn't. And so usually I warn them of, beware, I'm strange, so you know, you may get a different response. And I have been wondering that, because when we went into tech yesterday via webinar, they've turned my mic on, but I've been keeping it off when they're performing. And I don't know, actors, you need to be the one, I guess, that responds to this, because now you're not hearing me laugh. Even in our Zoom, I a lot of times didn't turn my mic on. So we haven't talked about it, but it has been in my head of how this is going to be different for you guys.
I thought a lot about that too, partially because Anne does have so many wonderful lines that do get an audience response. And I'm the kind of actor who's like, I get an audience response and I'm like, oh, you liked that? Well, you'll love it when I do it even bigger, you know? And so I find myself falling into that trap occasionally. I have to kind of reel myself back in. And so I've been thinking about, how am I going to know if what I'm doing is good, or if the lines are landing? And I think I keep coming back to just being able to trust the text, because what's written on the page, it's all been given to us. Lauren and Margot have done such an exquisite job with their language that we don't necessarily have to do a bunch with it. We just present it and we just tell the story that's there. And I feel like I can trust that text enough that I don't have to worry about if it's going to land, just because it's written so well that it's going to land, more or less. I don't know if that answers the question or not.
No, it definitely does. And you're right. When we as actors are given a good text that we can trust, that is probably the greatest gift we can be given. I've never tried it quite in this format, but personally, but you're right. And I'm glad you feel that way. I'm very glad to hear that. Anybody else, any other actors, cast? Yeah, Christina.
I was just going to say real quick that like audience energy is one thing too, but I think something we've also been like tackling in rehearsal is also just like the energy through the screen, even just acting with your other like actors or whatever. It's very different acting to like a camera than it is to like another person. And so I think it's been a whole like interesting process, just learning what it is to really just trust the process, and what Lindsay was saying, like trust like the text, because that's gonna like get the job done. And like even amping up energy in certain spots, or like remembering that, I mean, I got this note, like remembering that I am on a computer, I don't have to act like I'm on a stage, you know? So it's just been I feel like tackling energy is something that we've all been experiencing. It'll be very interesting bringing audience into that.
Well, I'm happy to say, and I had no doubt about this with our audience, we do have a very giving, loving audience at Main Street. And Janet has just reaffirmed that for us. She has typed in, actors, please just know that your audience is with you and will definitely be laughing over here and probably also tearing up. And I suspect Janet will not be the only one doing that. We have taken a lot of everybody's time, but before
Ricardo, did you have one more thing you wanted to say? Because your mic was on. Okay, all right.
Before we sign off for the evening, our VIP Flying Man Society donors, we have an exclusive for you. You thought it was exclusive that we had our two playwrights, and it absolutely is. But more than that, I will ask the question that's on everyone's mind, which is, Lauren and Margot, are you gonna write a third one? And I think they have an answer they're willing to share for us tonight. So one or both of you want to take that?
Do you guys think we should?
Yes.
Okay, fine, we will.
Yeah, sure. Seems like a good idea. We are currently in the process of working on Pemberley Part 3. So as you all know, Pride and Prejudice really covered the stories of Lizzie and Jane pretty well, but there are 3 more sisters. So Miss Bennet obviously gave us the story of Mary Bennet. The Wickhams, we got to dive deep with Lydia. And so part 3, we are going to learn about Kitty Bennet, and as an extra added bonus, Georgiana Darcy, because Georgiana is one of the most compelling characters of Pride and Prejudice that we just don't get to hear very much from. And so now she and Kitty are going to get their story.
Yay!
That is.
But as you can probably guess, there will be some love, there'll be drama, there'll be some music. And we're doing some fun new stuff too. So it'll feel very much like the others in some ways, but also there will be some really fun surprises.
Sort of like
new accents. Did we get, we invented an Irish guy, right?
Oh, okay.
We did invent an Irish guy.
That accent needs to be in these plays.
And we have asked them, we put in a request to cover the escapades of Anderberg and Lydia when they go to London. So I don't know if
a 10-minute play.
All of that in, but we have asked for that.
Right.
The Pixar short before the movie.
Exactly. I think it could be an intermission. It could be, we can work with it. However you'll write it, we'll find a way to get it in there.
I think it's like just a carriage ride home from a ball and they are wasted.
Oh, please. Oh, please. Let's do that. I think we have a few people who might want to see how that goes. Well, and to that point, I absolutely believe that Miss Bennet and the Wickhams are 2 completely standalone plays. I mean, you do not have to see, if you missed Miss Bennet, you're still, I mean, they're very different. So I love that continues, and that there will of course be similarities. It's the same world, but have its own, its own feel to it. That's marvelous. So you've started writing, yes? You partway through?
Yeah, we have the first act, and the truth is, were we supposed to be premiering it, premiering it now?
It was theoretically opening like next week.
No,
so of course, pandemic did what it did. Yeah. And so we kind of put a pause on writing that for writing some other things that, have had different lives in the last 9 months or so. But we are hopefully next year, when the world rights itself a little bit and we all wear our masks and keep it together and get vaccinated, we can be in the theater again. And that's my dream of dreams right now. It's kind of what's keeping me going, is that being in space, being in the rehearsal room together, discovering the things that we discover when we are premiering a play, which is, the draft we go in when we start is very different than the draft that shows up on opening night. And so that process I long for.
Yeah.
I will also argue that my children might be thundering in a moment, so I'm gonna.
Well, and we're going to wrap up very shortly. I guess the last thing I would ask while we have you both here, I might have one more. Patty, you read my mind. What are you all working on right now? Obviously, Pemberley Part 3 is there, but are you all? I have no doubt that you're both very busy on many things. So if you want to just share with us quickly, and then we'll all say goodnight.
Well, I can share that Lauren and I, Lauren is writing a bunch of things on her own and working on an amazing piece called The Catastrophist that she'll tell you about in just a moment. But we are also cooking up some other. We can't talk about them yet.
That's okay, but you're cooking.
We can't talk about them yet.
We're just
but we are
to know
cooking up some other ideas.
Okay. That is, we will be at the ready to hear when you are able to tell us what you're cooking. And Lauren,
some of them are earlier, but yes, the play that I am working on is called The Catastrophist. It's premiering online in January, late January. It'll be available for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, because we're co-premiering it with a company in Washington, D.C., Roundhouse Theater and Marin Theater here, as well as a couple other theaters. But what's interesting about it, hey, Ace, can you calm down for just 1 second? There we go.
We love that you're human.
What's interesting about this one is it's actually about my husband. And so it's a one-person play about my husband, who is a virologist who studies pandemics. So it's been on my mind the last 9 months. So it's kind of a really interesting story about, the things about somebody that you love and have been together for a long time. So in some ways it's like been dreaming up this story since we met. So.
I love that. Well, and I know he has been doing some extraordinary work and getting recognition for it in his own right of late. So that's fabulous, because we also love science here at Main Street Theater. So that is very exciting, and we will all keep our eyes out. Since that's the one good thing about all this, is we can watch theater anywhere in the world. And so that means we could watch The Catastrophist when it comes out, everyone. Okay, well, on that note, Margot and Lauren, we cannot thank you enough. This has been pure joy. And I love that Lauren is mama too. And life happens. Margot, I know you are as well. You're just, and we are too. And my dog just came in, my son's in there. So life goes on. And the folks that were invited to this event tonight, you are a great part of what makes that happen for us. Please don't stop. We need your support. Actors, thank you for jumping in from all over the place. Literally. Robin, of course. Julie, thank you. Becky, we would not be here without you for sure. Andrew has been our behind the scenes making some magic happen. He's also working on our next Main Street at the Mic, which is coming up very soon. So we hope you will join us for Miss Bennett, for the Wickhams, for Main Street at the Mic, and then for whatever 2021 brings. So thank you all so much for joining us, and I hope you have a great rest of the evening.
Good night, everybody.
Everyone.